is Guillermo Cruz. He's a computer science major. He's also a junior, and he actually stayed in Berea as a student software developer. So please give up for Guillermo.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out tonight. Like he was nice enough to say, my name is Guillermo Cruz. I'm currently a junior here at Berea College. I'm a computer science major with a concentration in information systems with a double minor in mathematics and business administration. And I'm originally from Carrollton, Kentucky. So if you were to venture down to the basement of the TAD building, you'd probably come across a room that's littered with monitors and rubber ducks. And this combination might seem really strange to you at first, but as programmers, we like to use a method known as rubber duck debugging whenever we're in a really tight situation. So the methodology is that you should be able to take your code and explain it line by line to a rubber duck to find the error in your logic, or just to see if the ducks have any ideas. I don't know. And I would say that the rubber duck can be seen almost like the insignia of the student software development team, which is a team that I had the pleasure of being a part of for 9 weeks during my summer. But before I can get into that, I have to talk about how I actually got to this point. So during my internship search, it didn't go as smoothly as I would have liked it to. And after doing a lot of self-reflection, it really came down to the fact that I wasn't sure what I actually was interested in and what I wanted out of an internship. At that point in time, all I really knew was that I had some basic proficiency in Python programming. But I didn't know how I could take advantage of this and actually find avenues that I was interested in. So I was kind of at a standstill. And as a result of that, I found myself applying to internships that I just wasn't fully committed towards. I went to all the internship workshops. I had plenty of meetings with their staff. I reached out to other students. But at the end of the day, it all really boiled down to me being indecisive and not knowing what was actually out there for me. And I didn't find this avenue until Dr. Pierce spoke to our class about the student software development team. And it was the first opportunity that I actually was excited about and was immediately drawn to. And after reaching out to a lot of the students who had gone to the program previously, and also Vinny, who is an EPG alumni, I realized that this was an opportunity that I was really excited about and that I couldn't pass up. So I immediately submitted my application, and I was fortunate enough to be accepted for the summer program. And the student software development team is a team composed of a dynamic group of Berea College students with 3 team leads. And our mission is to design software solutions for the college. The program was launched around 6 years ago through the collaboration of the Labor Department and Dr. Scott Heggen of the Computer Science Department. And to date, we've launched around 9 different software applications. And from the very first day of the internship, we jumped right into fixing issues with some of the existing software applications. And our responsibilities included designing implementable solutions, debugging code, performing accessibility reviews, and most importantly, managing an issue queue. And what an issue queue is just a list of existing problems and modifications that we need to create solutions for. And as you can see, we have different systems that are up and running at a time, so we have to have different issue queues for each one. And these issue queues were great because we generated quite a few of those issues using the feedback that we actually got from our users. And in order to actually create solutions for these, we had to learn the art of both front-end and back-end software development. So front-end software development deals with everything that the user can actually see when they first open up their application. Front-end developers are responsible for making the user interface interactive, user-friendly, and also, most importantly, accessible to all users. And back-end development deals more with the server side of the application and everything that communicates between the actual application and the database. And these initial weeks were really challenging because of how Dr. Heggen wanted us to become acclimated to this line of work. His philosophy was that we would benefit much more from just diving right into the work, becoming aimlessly lost every now and then, and just trying to learn as much as we could along the way before we really needed to rely on his help. He needed us to become efficient working in the face of complexity and uncertainty, which sounded eerily similar to one of the EPG abilities Dr. Hackbert wanted us to practice during our EPG Summer Institute, engaging complexity and uncertainty. They, both Dr. Hackbert and Dr. Heggen, knew the importance of really pushing us outside of our comfort zones and making us become accustomed to taking on unpredictable challenges, because this is a skill set that you're going to have in any line of work. And although they were 2 vastly different situations, from the EPG Summer Institute to my work as a student software developer, the principle behind the 2 was still the same. Dr. Heggen explained to us that these first couple of weeks were going to feel as though we were trying to swim through quicksand. We were going to be making progress every day, but it came at a very, very moderate pace. And although those weeks were really challenging, we needed to have these early setbacks and challenges in order to eventually have the success that we did. And once those initial weeks were finished, we started our big project for the summer, the complete redesign of the current labor status form system. So the current system, the labor status form system is a system we use across the college to give students jobs. And the current system had a lot of inefficiencies because it required a lot of manual labor by the labor department. It gave an overwhelming amount of information and data to users at times, and it just needed a facelift in terms of the overall user interface. And a project of this size and magnitude needed to be carefully planned out if we were actually going to meet our deadlines and be able to demo to college and the labor department by the end of the summer. So in order to make sure that we were making efficient use of our time, we needed to learn a rapid style of prototyping known as paper prototyping and also work efficiently under the Scrum framework. And what Scrum is an agile methodology used for primarily software development. And one of the key principles of Scrum is the understanding that users are always going to change their wants and needs. And this is always going to lead to unpredictable challenges. So under Scrum, we would work in 1 to 2 week sprints where we could quickly prototype, design, deploy, and test small pieces of the software application at a time. So that way, if we needed to make any quick modifications, we could just throw it into a sprint and be able to knock it out without having to slow down the entire process of the software application being built. And paper prototyping is a method that we use to quickly create fully functional user interfaces. And by fully functional, it means that every single element that you see on this paper needs to act the same way that it would on an actual browser. So on the click of a button, if I should be redirected to another page or I should have a smaller window pop up, my paper prototype needed to show this, and it just wanted to be as dynamic as it possibly could. And this seemed tedious at first, but this was really invaluable to our progression throughout the summer, because by paper prototyping, we were able to go through 7 to 8 iterations of every single user interface in about a week and a half. And the driving force behind these constant iterations was another one of the EPG abilities, recognizing opportunity. We were working systemically as a team to identify all the inefficiencies that were associated with the old labor status form system, and we really needed to fix these. And that's why we had to go through so many iterations, but we were able to knock them out pretty quickly. And once all the prototyping was finished, we finally began to actually code. And we split off into 2-person pair programming teams and started to knock out several different pages at a time. So we constantly kept each other updated with our work through daily meetings, and we demoed our work to each other almost every single day to get the feedback that we needed. Although we were in these 2-person pair programming teams, we weren't just relying on our own information. The reason why we had so much success was because we were using another one of the EPG abilities, mobilizing resources. We were constantly bouncing ideas off of each other, and we weren't limiting ourselves to only working with one partner at a time. We recognized that each team member had different human capital, and we knew that we could learn much more from each other than we could just stagnant being in 2-member teams. So as a result, we were constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. And by ourselves, we had really limited information and knowledge. But through our constant collaborations, through our daily team meetings, through our demo sessions, and through just bouncing ideas off of each other, we were able to quickly increase our own human capital, and we were able to really progress through the system quickly. And of course, whenever we got really stuck, we always had Dr. Heggen to rely on because he just knew everything. And although we wrote a substantial amount of code over the summer, I think maybe north of 5,000 lines of code maybe, we didn't spend every single moment just furiously typing away at the keyboard. We needed to develop an understanding of what the consumer actually wanted given their feedback. We needed to define solutions that needed to be solved. We needed to generate ideas in order to tackle those problems. We needed to bring those ideas to fruition through prototyping and programming. We needed to do an extensive amount of coding or testing with anything that we built before we were finally able to implement these small pieces into the overall software application. And if this sounds familiar to any EPG students, it's because this is just the design thinking method. One of the key entrepreneurial concepts that Dr. Hackbert really taught us during our summer institute. And the reason why I really wanted to highlight this is because design thinking is literally embedded inside of the Scrum framework because of how dynamic, cognitive, and practical it is for any design team. And Dr. Hackbert really drilled the importance of this methodology into us because, as you can see, design thinking isn't just applicable to entrepreneurship. And the highest moment of our summer came when we finally had the opportunity to demo to Carlos in the labor office. And this was taken when we were making the final push to get our demo ready. I was exhilarated for this opportunity because I was really proud of what we had actually accomplished over the summer. And it really showed during the demo. The office staff was excited about what we had actually created for them. And they were already talking about how much more efficient we had made the system, even though we weren't even finished with it yet. At that point, we had only finished about 60% of the system, but they already saw how much time and energy we were going to save them moving forward. And it was just a great way to end the summer. And moving forward, I'm still a software developer for the rest of the year, so we're going to finish the system and hopefully have it launched by the end of the semester. And the important part of my presentation today is how does my directed field experience from this summer actually tie in my my experience through the EPG Summer Institute. So, as Dr. Hackbert is always preaching, the entrepreneurial mindset isn't something that's only applicable in a business setting. The skill set is truly something that's interdisciplinary and that we've seen my cohort members and I use across the board in our varying internships over the summer. Even though I wasn't able to apply every single entrepreneurial concept or apply all 6 of the EPG abilities into my work this summer, I saw a lot of the overlap and the parallels between the two. And I also think it's important to note about my own progress through the summer. So if we go back to this slide for a moment, all I knew at the time was that I had some basic proficiency in Python programming. But through that, I was able to find my internship. And through my internship, I learned how I can actually apply Python as a software developer while also picking up a few more languages along the way and learning how to work under the Scrum framework. Through my internship, I also had to do a research paper on data management. And through that, I found a career path that really piqued my interest in performance analysis. And through my research as well, I also learned an extensive amount about graph databases. And I really became interested in data science, which I'm going to be taking classes in independently moving forward. And as a result of my summer work, I was fortunate enough to be given an independent study position with Dr. Gonzalez of the art department, where I'm going to be using both my internship experience and my summer research because we're going to be creating a data visualization application that's going to be powered on the back end with graph databases. And through my independent study thus far, I've picked up how to work with Neo4j, a software application that's, of course, powered by Python on the back end. And the reason why I wanted to show this visual is to show how just one opportunity and one avenue out of Python led me to all of this. If I were to just write this down on a piece of paper, then I wouldn't be able to see how every single experience has actually built up of itself thus far, and how everything that I've done up to this point is really intertwined with itself. Which leads me to my last point. Don't compare your beginnings to someone else's middles. In the past, more often than I like to admit, I always felt discouraged with myself because I was fixated on the progress of others rather than being fixated on my own progression. I was always making strides in my own work, but I felt as though I was behind the pack because I wasn't actually looking back to see how much I had done myself. And it wasn't until I looked back at my own work to realize how far I had actually progressed in my own work. And there's obviously still a lot of work to be done, but I'm just really proud to say that I've been able to start from here and make my way up to where I am today. So my advice to the future cohort members and to myself moving forward is that you're not going to make it, and you're not going to be able to make forward progress unless you actually look at how far you've come yourself. And this is something that I really had to come to terms with myself, but you just have to take on every day with the mindset of being better today than you were the day before. Thank you. Any questions? Actually, so at first I had no idea. So we got into our workspace the first day, and there was just rubber ducks all over the place. I was like, this is weird. And it wasn't until like I looked it up. Oh, I saw a meme about rubber ducks and coding, and then I was like, that's what they're about. And I actually tried talking to my rubber duck the first time, like maybe 4 weeks into the internship, and that was when I had my first moment, and everything like really clicked together because it had to do with databases on the back end, but it was like, wow, these guys actually work. It was just there for more support more than anything, but.
So what kind of questions do you ask the rubber duck? Like how does it help you in general? Like I'm wondering,
Yeah.
this is a metacognitive concept.
Yeah.
What's actually happening whenever you're running through that process?
So if you can't even explain the code if you can't break your code down to the very basics and explain it, building it all the way back up, then you can't expect yourself to be able to solve it on your own. So I could explain the code to Dr. Heggen, for example, and I could give him the footnotes of it, and he'd be able to immediately find what was wrong with it and be able to point out my inefficiencies. But actually, like, taking the time to fully understand every single piece of the code, every line, how everything leads into each other is what really helps you to problem solve on your own. And even though we weren't, talking to the rubber ducks every day, that was a skill set that we kind of had to learn on our own. And by the end of the summer, we weren't always relying on Dr. Heggen's help because of just that practice.
So you mentioned being able to pick up 3 other programming languages aside from Python. How would you say you learned these new languages while still remaining efficient throughout the internship? Like, did you have to code on the fly and pick them up as you went, or you just had to make up study sessions outside of your internship?
Yeah, no, definitely a combination of both. During the first couple of weeks, I wasn't working nearly as efficiently as I would have liked to, but it's just practice, I guess. I guess a misconception about coding is that you have to learn, languages across the board, and you have to know everything that's associated with each one. But once you learn your first language, you're kind of able to pick up small differences between them, and you don't have to completely learn the language on your own. You see how there's a lot of parallels between languages. So learning JavaScript, for example, it was pretty similar to Python, so that wasn't difficult. And then the other 2 languages as well, they were more markup languages, so they weren't very difficult. But yeah, definitely outside of the internship, I would just practice. I would do coding practices, I would look up code on my own, I would just do anything that I could to make myself more efficient in the office.
Thank you, Guillermo.